Hello, I'm Carrie Dara with Grow Cedar Valley, and welcome to our webinar series that we've been providing the last couple of months. Today we welcome Heather Marquez from Action Coach MindLinks, and Heather's been a great resource for us for many years, and more specifically lately with all of the changes that our businesses are going through. And so recently we've realized that while the restrictions are being lifted slowly and businesses are recognizing their abilities to re-engage with their customers and their service group, there still may be some questions on really the logistics of that, not necessarily with respect to the restrictions or the lifting of them, but just ongoing with your business and making sure that you're looking at things possibly differently while incorporating some of the same things that you're used to. So I'd like to turn it over to Heather for the next 30 minutes. You'll hear from her, and at the end you'll get some contact information if there's additional questions that you'd like to follow up with Heather. I know she'd be glad to help you with that. So Heather, I'll let you take it away, and thank you so much for doing this for us today.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. My pleasure. I love having the opportunity to add value to business owners and leaders in the Cedar Valley. And with that, we're just going to jump right in to the presentation and go ahead and kick it off. So you're open. Now what? There's a lot of stuff going on out there, a lot of information. And my goal today is really to narrow down 5 specific things that you really have to do to have a great reboot and make sure that you finish out 2020 strong. Now, this isn't an all exhaustive list, but this is a really great place to start and keep your focus. Now, the very first thing I want to say is there is a lot of importance throughout this around mindset. So as a business owner, your mindset is really going to dictate your results. And we've seen a lot of challenges with that. As we went into 2020, there was a lot of excitement around how we were going to start it off and how great of a year it was starting for a lot of businesses. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we started to see everything take a nosedive. Now, I do want to say not every business, not every industry was suffering the decline. Some actually had a really huge boom, which causes its own set of problems as we go. But these 5 concepts are going to be applicable to whether you had a boom or a bust during COVID. So we went through this survival mode and we saw the sales drop. Some businesses had to close completely. And as we started to see the ease of restrictions, we started to move into a new phase called drive. Now, this is the phase we're in right now. And this is a phase that it's really critical for you as business owners to be doing some very specific things so that you can make sure that you maximize this, because what you do in this phase is really going to set the tone for the rest of your year. And at this point, you can see that there's one path that doesn't lead to a great ending, and that's the closure. And really the thing for that path is a failure to adapt, a failure to have the right mindset to ensure that you're doing what's required to get to that thrive phase and make sure that you're finishing out 2020 strong. So we're going to talk about those things. Now, to do number 1, re-educate and prepare. This is re-educating you and your team. Now, local rules of the game, there's a lot of different restrictions, suggestions. Do we wear PPE or not? A lot of that going on. And even from a government standpoint, the rules of the game for the grants, the PPP, continue to change. One of my clients who's an accountant tells me all the time that she has to now go reach out to her clients because something else has changed and they need to pivot. So make sure that you're really digging into those rules of the game, whether it be for the grants or what the community is expecting you to do. And then there's a lot of common sense. We want to make sure that we are respecting the things that are being suggested and not taking any unnecessary risks at this phase. Now, you've seen a lot of businesses really ramp up their cleaning and even putting up screens for the safety of their people. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to present that front that really gives our customers the feeling of safety. It's really important that they have a peace of mind. So people have to see and feel the safety measures that you're putting in place in order for them to want to come and do business with you. And I'll give you an example. There's a local restaurant that a friend of mine and her husband frequented pretty often pre-COVID-19. And they are just now starting to integrate and go back out and go out and eat. And they went to their very favorite restaurant for the very first time last week. And the thing that they saw really scared them. And after they sat down and ordered, they asked for their food to go and left the restaurant and aren't going to go back for some time. They saw no safety measures, no cleaning, no personal protective equipment for the wait staff. And so, although you as a business owner may feel really good about where things are, it's important to use the common sense and make sure that your customers are seeing and feeling what they need to have a peace of mind when they come shop with you. And then flexibility is key. That's really going to be the name of the game. You're going to start to do things because they seem to be the right things to do, but then your customers or your team might actually demand something a little bit different. So this is an instance where the way we always did it isn't going to fly anymore. We have to be really flexible as business owners and embrace change, look for change, and make sure that we're listening to our customers so that as they're telling us what they want from us, what they expect from us, we can pivot and adapt and make sure that we're re-educating our team and ourselves on how to provide that. It's going to be a lot of changing our routines at this point. Now, number two, you've got to rebuild your team. Whether your team was completely furloughed or they were working different shifts, it's going to be really important to not assume that they know this new way of doing business. So as a business owner, it's crucial that first of all, you start to give them some confidence in coming back. Now, one of the key ways to do that is to make sure that you're communicating all of the safety measures that you are putting in place, all of the new protocols, so that they understand that their safety is just as important to you as it is to them, and they feel confident coming back and doing their jobs in the location that you have. There's also an opportunity here for flexible hours and virtual availability. Now, if you noticed in some banks, they were shutting down lobbies, and where they had lobbies open, sometimes they were working shifts. And so one bank manager that I was talking to recently said that they have a team that works a certain 3 days a week and another team that works the other 3 days a week. And so those teams never cross, never overlap, so that they can make sure that they are reducing the amount of exposure as much as possible. And by having one team work specific hours opposite of another team, what they're doing is giving themselves the ability to have continuity of business, because if somebody were to get infected by reintroducing the general population, you're going to have to quarantine everybody that person came in contact with. So we want to make sure that we have a plan that creates flexibility for our staff, but also allows us the flexibility to operate should something resurface for us. And then you need to provide a sense of community and communication. And this is really important. A lot of organizations pivoted to digital. We saw so many people start to work virtually. And now as we start to bring them back, it's important to recognize that the sense of community they had before might be a little more fractured because they haven't had that one-on-one time, the FaceTime, walking past each other's desks, whatever the case may be. So you're going to have to consciously build community amongst your team again. And you do that by having really clear communication. You've got to make sure that you're keeping them informed, and not just informed about, hey, we're all coming back, but what are the new standards and protocols that you're implementing? It's going to be crucial that they understand all of the new expectations. And with that, there's going to be a hit on productivity. Now, we all want to get the most out of the time we have with our team, but we have to understand that their old routines, because of some of these new protocols, are going to shift significantly. And we've got to make sure that we allow time for that in the workload. Essentially, we just have to think of everybody as being new again. Start from the ground up. This is where we pull back in that re-education step, but rebuild their skills, their knowledge, their abilities in the organization so that they can serve the customers in the same great way they were before, but now also working with the constraints that they may have to be taking on. Now, this next one is super crucial, and I cannot speak highly enough about it. Rerun your numbers. It surprises me all the time when I talk to business owners who don't really look at their numbers very often. But at this point in time, every single decision you make is either a make money decision or a cost money decision. Simple as that. And you have to look at those numbers even more often now because you need to understand the trends. So are you trending to, for example, hit your break-even numbers? And if not, what do you need to do differently to make sure that you're hitting the break-even numbers, not just from a revenue standpoint covering the expenses, but also what's your expected profitability? And that's by looking at those numbers, it's going to help you make better decisions as you go for what do we invest in? We have to put up sneeze guards, plastic dividers. We have to buy PPE. So with that additional expense, if the sales aren't covering that, we're going to have to look at what else we can reduce. So it's going to be really important that you are looking at your numbers at a minimum weekly, but even daily if you have the reporting ability so that you can pivot and make changes as quickly as possible. And then if you received government money, make sure that you're using it wisely. If you don't have to use all of it at once, then save a little bit of it up so that you can make sure if anything happens in your business, you've got a contingency plan. But the other piece of this is you have to remember there's a lot of that money that you have to pay back eventually. So you've got to make sure that you are building that into your budget and building some cushion as you go. We do still suggest more cash on hand. I had the pleasure of talking to a business owner about a month ago in an industry that was shifting but still booming. And one of the things he said in his 40 years of business was that he learned very early on when sales were great, that was the time to pack away for a rainy day because everything shifts. When there's an up, there's a down. When there's a down, there's an up. And you have to make sure as a business owner that you're ready for that. So we don't know exactly what to expect over the next 6 months. But what we do know is that there were a lot of businesses that were caught unprepared or underprepared, and it was a significant hardship on them. So whatever you can do in this moment to make sure that you still have cash on hand is going to be really important for the continuity of your business. And then number 4 is really important because it's going to be so different. Rethink your marketing and sales. Now, there's a lot of different pieces to this, but I want to really emphasize that it's compassion and empathy that's going to be absolutely critical right now. The pushy sales, that kind of sales tactic is long gone. It was actually starting to go away before all of this helped, before all of this happened, but we really need to understand that that's not where people are. And by doing any of those old strategies, we're going to alienate our customers. So we need to really have a full revision of our marketing and sales plan. And we start by focusing on helping and educating more than the benefits of if you do business, here's what you're going to get. We want to really educate and build trust in this phase. We also need to remember that our customers still have fear and worry. That hasn't gone away. They may be excited to come and visit your business again, but there is some intrinsic fear and worry just because they're stepping out, and maybe some of them aren't even stepping out yet. How can you, as a business owner, make sure that your marketing is speaking to that fear and that worry? And maybe it's even something that's industry specific for you that you need to make sure that you're tackling. Now, your sales process may have to have more steps, and it may take longer than what it's ever taken before because there's a lot of trust that's been broken down. There's a lot of emotions swirling around. And with that, patience is going to be critical. So reevaluate your sales process and understand where maybe you need to add a couple of steps because it's the best thing to do for your customers. Now, here's another tool that's really jumping into popularity, and this is video. Video is taking off like never before. And the thing I want you to understand is it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be authentic. What we're seeing also is if you're sitting at your office behind a desk. It's not near as approachable and engaging. So go outside, go to a different location, surprise them in the video with where you're at. That creates some engagement. And then if you can start to tap into those raving fan customers to get testimonials, that's another point of leverage around your marketing that's really important right now. You have to remember to be customer centric. Now, a few years ago, we started really talking in the Cedar Valley on customer obsession. That hasn't changed. That concept has been around for quite some time. But with COVID-19, we've seen a significant shift much faster to actually being essentially customer obsessed. So it's not enough to just be thinking about moving towards that. You really have to be customer obsessed. What does that look like? Well, that's asking questions. I teach a 13-week sales course on customer-centric selling, and it really starts with this 16-word phrase. People buy when a compelling need is met with a credible solution that offers perceived value. So you have credible or compelling need, credible solution, and perceived value. 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3, meaning the sale. If you are missing identifying their compelling need, showing how you're a credible solution, which goes back to that testimony piece, or offering the perception of value and really speaking into that, then you're not going to get the sale. And we're not talking about focusing marketing on price. It's not about that. Your marketing needs to be focused on community. It needs to be focused on togetherness. It needs to be focused on more gratitude, the feelings that people need in order to re-energize them about coming back in and being reintroduced to your business. So customer-centric is absolutely crucial in your marketing and sales, and that's going to require an entire revision of your marketing plan. What you had planned at the beginning of the year is no longer going to be suitable for the rest of the year. And if you don't change it, what you're going to end up doing is breaking down relationships, losing your database, having people unsubscribe, and giving your customers to somebody else. Now, the last point here is continue to build your database. Focus on relationships and building database, because there are businesses in your industry that had to close. Those customers are up for grabs, meaning if you show up best and you add them the best value and you build the best relationship, they're now going to come to your business and be your customers. So it's really important that the companies who do the marketing and sales well right now are going to really see a tremendous lift in what they're doing. But you have to be very intentional and understand what your customers need to hear and make sure that you're really backing all of that up. So if you're saying we're cleaning after every customer, when they come in, is there visibility to that? Can you really back that up? We've seen a lot of car companies where they're offering 0% financing because of people having a lot of concerns around their finances. So what is it that your customers really need from you, and how can you change your marketing to speak into that and help them find trust and faith and excitement about shopping with you again? Now, number 5 is Rethink Everybody. Here's the really cool thing about rethanking everybody. Gratitude is the most powerful emotion, and it can't coexist with negative emotions. So where there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of anxiety and anger going on right now, if you bring your team, yourself, your customers into a place of gratitude, that other stuff just can't exist at the same time. And this is where we talk about mindset again. Mindset as a business owner is crucial. So start to rethank everybody. Now, obviously, you want to rethank your customers, especially the ones who stayed the course and were doing business. Rethank them for their patience, for all the changes that you've had to make. There are now, when you go grocery shopping, little arrows on the floor that even tell you how you're supposed to shop. That requires some patience because some customers get very frustrated going down the wrong aisle or seeing other customers go down the wrong aisle. So make sure that you're just thanking them for their adaptability, their loyalty. Thank your team. It's really easy to underestimate the emotional and mental stress that your team has gone through as well. And so one of the most powerful things you can do for employee engagement is make sure that you're thanking your team. And I'm not talking about just the big, hey, thanks everybody. What I'm talking about is personal, meaningful thank yous. Same thing with your suppliers, your bankers, your accountants. I know the accounting firm that I coach currently has been working crazy hours helping their customers maximize their opportunities for all of the grants and the programs out there. So what have your suppliers, your bankers, your accountants, et cetera, your service providers done to help you navigate through this a little bit easier? Show them some appreciation for that. Make sure that you know that they know that you're thankful and appreciate all of the effort that they've made. And there's no better way to do that than handwritten notes. I actually have a client who is handwriting notes to the customers that haven't been in since COVID-19 started. And what she's seeing is a significant increase in those customers coming back in much more quickly than what we anticipated, and talking about the excitement from those handwritten notes. So don't underestimate the ability to personalize something. And this comes back to your team as well. A big group thank you isn't near as effective as a handwritten note. That is so incredibly meaningful, and it's something people can put on their desk to be reminded that you do appreciate them. Now, here's another underappreciated group, the media and our politicians. There's probably no harder job right now than to be media and politicians, because they're pulled in so many directions with so many expectations, trying to keep us informed, trying to make policy and adopt new procedures to help us thrive at this point. And so, although both of those jobs can be a little bit thankless, at this moment as a business owner, what if you took a little bit of time and just said thank you? How much difference could that make? And maybe you didn't agree with all the decisions, but the fact that those leaders stayed the course and worked all the hours they did to continue to try and support our community is a really important part of what we as business owners need to be recognizing. And then thank your fellow business owners. I've had the pleasure over the last few months to be involved with a group that I was coaching. And one of the things I saw that came from that group was this sense of community and support. And we just wrapped up that program on Monday night, as a matter of fact. And one of the really cool things that has come out of that is those business owners intend to continue communicating and supporting with each other. They knew at any point in time when things were frustrating or stressful, they could pick up the phone and talk to me. They could talk to one of their peers in the program, and we would all help each other right the ship so that we could make sure that our sails were catching as much wind as possible. So it's really important that you're taking time out to just think about who should you be thanking and what's that going to look like for you. Now, I do have a 5.5. This is about rewriting your plan. A lot of business owners got into a flurry of activity during the restrictions that we were facing, and for some shutdowns, but that activity wasn't always the right activity. It felt good to be doing all of that activity. It felt good to be busy, but when we look back, some of those activities really weren't as meaningful for the future growth of our business and continuing to navigate the situations that we're navigating. So take some time from working in your business to work on your business. One of my mentors used to say, plan the work, work the plan. And so for me, that just means hitting the pause button, slowing down so that you can speed up. So it was a 90-day game to get through all of this. And now we need a 90-day plan to thrive. So reopening is much harder than it was to close. Closing was pretty immediate, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to do to reopen well and to continue to stay open and protect your business's reputation with your customers. You can't afford simple mistakes at this stage of the game because you may not have enough resources to weather those kinds of mistakes again. So it's really important that we are doing all of those little things like limiting exposure for our teams, using the PPE, making it acceptable to be safe. It doesn't have to be cool, but it is right to make sure that you are being safe. And we see a lot of people not wearing masks right now, and that's all their choice. But as a business owner, Are you making the decisions to support your team in the congruency of your messaging by being the first one to wear the mask if that is the plan? So make sure that you've got a 90-day plan. And then the other piece of this is to share that plan out. Here's the power of a 90-day plan. On Tuesday, I actually conduct a quarterly business planning session. And ours last one was on Tuesday. So it's every quarter of the year we do this planning session. And the things that I was hearing at the end of the day were, I finally feel calm. My state of overwhelm is gone. I have purposeful actions and focuses now. It's powerful to get it out of your head and get it on paper. Now I can see what next, and I can take fast action versus having to think and second guess and course correct all the time. So create a plan and then share it with your team so that they get the same benefits of clarity and focus around what is next. What should they be stepping into next? What decisions should they be making to support the initiatives that are happening in your organization? I can't say enough about the plan. And once you create it, revisit it daily. Make sure that you're keeping it somewhere where it's highly visible. It's so easy to spend a lot of time creating a beautiful plan and then forget to get it out and look at it to make sure you're really on plan when things get busy. So make sure that you set aside time. Now, think negative as well as positive. What do I mean by that? Mindset is super important, but what you also need to be thinking about is being realistic. So what are the worst case scenarios of what could be coming down the line? Are you thinking through those things so that you can make sure that your plan takes into account the what ifs, and not all the positive what ifs, but some of those negative what ifs? What if some of the essential members of the team go down for the count? What if we have another resurgence and we have to close for a little bit of time? What if? So make sure that you are thinking of the things that could happen, not in a way that puts you in a spiral of worry. You've got to control your mindset, but it's not all positive from here on out. There's still going to be challenges, just like there are every single day in a business. And then get help. Make sure that you're reaching out and getting support from your peers, your inner circle, your coach. If you don't have a coach, reach out. There's a lot of great coaches in our community that coach on a variety of topics, not just business. My focus is business and leadership, but get a support system around you. So this is the phase that we have been on. We went through lockdown, and during that time, a lot of businesses made great decisions to take advantage of training. And now we are in this warming up phase, and some businesses are starting to move into the sprint phase. So the lockdown ending is sort of the overlap for the warm up and the sprint. And I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this so that you can understand what's required in each of these stages. Because if we cycle through this again, you're going to have a little bit more clarity for what next and what to do during these particular phases. Now, one of the things I do want to point out is at the very top when it says personal, in every single one of those stages, you'll notice mindset shows up. I can't focus on mindset enough. Your mindset dictates your results as a business owner. So it's really important that you are choosing your brain diet well, that you're being intentional with what you're allowing in. And that might mean creating limits for yourself, your family, your team on social media and the news, things that maybe aren't giving you the energy to move forward and the creativity. One of the things that I've been doing over the past month or so is talking to business owners about what they've done and how they're getting through it and what changes they've seen and what's keeping them inspired. And we're sending that out to our newsletter group so that they can be inspired, motivated, and educated as they continue to ramp up their business. It's such a great opportunity right now to learn and see what others did and how they got through everything so that we can make sure that we're pulling together and taking those nuggets of wisdom and using them so that we maybe don't have to experience that same thing. Now, to finish up, I want to encourage you to get with your coach, get with your team, make your 90-day plan. It's super important to have a plan. And then write down 5 ideas right now that you have got to take action on right away. What are 5 things that popped out to you from any of the things we've discussed so far? And make a list and start planning out, when are you going to take action? Who's going to help you with that? Who could you delegate it to? When's the due date? What's required to make that action happen? It's great that you're attending this, and I love being able to share all of this with all of you. However, if you don't take some action with what you've learned today, then you've basically just lost some of your most important resource, which is time. If you have questions and answers, we don't have a lot of time for that today, but I am so open to having a conversation. We actually have 9 things that we are focusing on with our clients. Today, we only had time to talk about 5.5 of those things, but I am way open to having a conversation. My contact information is on the screen. It's heathermarquez.actioncoach.com. My email address is heathermarquez@actioncoach.com. And if you want to find out more about any of this stuff, if you want to have a conversation, learn about the slides we weren't able to go through today, I would love to connect either virtually or go have coffee and support a local business and talk through any of those questions that have popped up for you. So with that, it has been my pleasure to add value and do this partnership with Grow Cedar Valley. It's been a great organization that has done amazing things for our community and continues to provide education and resources. So if you haven't checked out their website lately, make sure that you're doing that. Make sure that you're opening the newsletters that they send, because as a business owner, that number one was educating. You can't educate if you don't go look for the resources. And our Cedar Valley, Grow Cedar Valley, has done an amazing job of putting together resources in a one-stop shop for you to be able to tap into. And then we have a great directory of members that provide a lot of products and services that can help you with whatever it is that you need through this time. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and I hope to hear from you.